What's going on, everyone? Welcome to our very first tank guide. We're going to be covering Reinhardt this time around because of two specific reasons. Number one, he's really beginner friendly, and number two, he's really powerful right now in Season 1. And remember, regardless if you're watching this video a month later or a year later, if they didn't change Reinhardt's core kit, then this guide will be relevant to him still. Alright guys, let's jump in and just touch on his three abilities real quick. He has a barrier ability, a charge ability, and a projectile ability that shoots out of his hammer. But before we go over his individual abilities, let's focus on his primary fire, or lack thereof, because he doesn't have a primary fire, he has a hammer, which is absolutely fantastic for new players because you don't have to aim with a gun. Reinhardt's hammer can just swing around, deal a bunch of damage, and he actually ends up getting a lot of kills. And of course, I need to put this out there, if you're playing a tank, you need team support. It does not matter what tank you're playing because there aren't two tanks anymore in Overwatch. There are no off tanks. Every single tank is a main tank and needs team support. Now on the flip side, there are some tanks out there that have a lot of survivability by themselves that don't necessarily need as much teamwork as some of the other tanks do, but Reinhardt is definitely one that you need team support with. And I will say, now that there's only one tank in Overwatch, it's gotten a lot better when it comes to team support because the team isn't divided into healing two tanks or helping out two tanks. It's just one tank and you're pretty much the leader of the team in every single game. So then the team is pretty much forced to play around you because as a tank you have so much impact in a match. And I'll say that a lot of Reinhardt's power comes from his barrier, especially in Overwatch 2 because they've nerfed all the barriers in Overwatch, even Reinhardt's, but still it has the highest damage mitigation out of all the other barriers in Overwatch. Which is awesome because if you're starting out Overwatch 2 for the first time and you decide to play a tank and you play Reinhardt, not only can you protect yourself for a long period of time, you're able to protect the team for a long period of time, and that's really valuable as a tank. Because of Reinhardt's barrier, he has extreme defense, but his barrier also gives him extreme offense. Let me explain. When lifting up Reinhardt's barrier, you're able to move forward at the same time, so you can put up a lot of defense but also move in for an offensive attack, not just you, but your entire team. And really, the best way to do this is to not let your barrier be destroyed all at once. You put it up, take some incoming fire, put it down, then take some incoming fire on your body, and if the swords are behind you and the team's with you, they're going to heal you, so you're going to be able to move into position where you can swing your hammer around, but you still have barrier just in case you need to protect the team from specific enemy abilities. Okay, so let's say you do this properly, you're able to move forward with your barrier, your team is behind you supporting you, and you're swinging your hammer around, getting a bunch of hits, but an enemy gets away from you right before you can kill them. This is a perfect time to use Reinhardt's second ability, Fire Strike, which allows him to close the gap if an enemy gets away from him and he can't quite reach them with his hammer. He can shoot that ability out and basically get a good kill if the enemy is low on health. And you guys need to know that this projectile is not instant, it has a little bit of a lag, so you want to kind of line up where the enemy is going to be rather than where they are when you fire it. And if you get really good at this, you're able to land both fire strikes on an enemy that you weren't able to hit that much with your hammer. I'd also say that because Reinhardt has two of these now, you're able to pick at enemies that are really far away like a Widow or a Hanzo if they're kind of aiming and standing still in the same position. If you can get both of those over there to deal some chip damage on them, there's a good chance that someone else from your team would be able to take them out. Okay, so now let's talk about Reinhardt's charge ability. His charge allows him to cover a great distance really quickly, whether that's from the point going back to spawn if the enemy team has taken over your position, or coming from spawn to point to get there quicker, or even just to reposition yourself for the team fight. And if you accidentally press his charge but you don't mean to, you're able to cancel it out, or even if you just position yourself in a bad spot and you didn't really want to go that far with your charge, you can cancel it out. It's really awesome, and that wasn't the case in Overwatch 1. Okay, so besides just traveling a large distance with his charge, if you're able to hit an enemy teammate and then pin them against the wall, you'll pretty much kill them instantly. I believe this to be Reinhardt's most powerful regular ability. He can pretty much get a one-hit KO on most of the characters. Obviously not the tanks, but a lot of specific characters that have low health, you're able to pin them with the charge and kill them instantly. When you guys play Reinhardt, I would really just recommend playing around with his charge and seeing what you can do with it. Don't be too afraid to extend forward. Reinhardt is meant to be aggressive. You don't want to hold back for too long and not get any ult charge. I'd say that one of the biggest issues new tank players have is they're too afraid to push in. Just learn your tank, figure out how to push in, and move in properly with your team. Even if your team isn't supporting you very well, that's still what you have to do. Because if you just stand back and barely get any ult charge, it's even worse than moving in, getting some ult charge, and dying. Okay, so now that we've touched on all of Reinhardt's primary abilities, let's cover his ultimate ability, Earth Shatter. His ultimate ability is fairly simple. If there's a group of enemies in front of you, you're able to slam down your hammer, it makes them them drop to the ground and you and the team are able to move in to attack. And as of time of recording, it also does some damage as well. And I'll go as far as to say that this is one of the strongest ultimate abilities in the game. If you land it properly, you don't really even have to couple it with another ultimate because it's enough to just take the entire team out if you hit a good one. Just be careful of other barriers and certain abilities that other characters have, specifically Orisa. She's really good at stopping Reinhardt's ultimate. But when you do catch a bunch of people in your ultimate, your fire strikes are a really good combo with his Earth Shatter, because if you line it up properly with the players that are laying on the ground, you can skip that fire strike across multiple opponents, dealing a bunch of chip damage to every single one of them. And then by the time they pop back up, if any of them are still alive, you'll be able to swing your hammer around and deal enough damage to pretty much kill all of them. And remember, if you have a chance to Earth Shatter both of the enemy healers, do it. If you can take both healers out, that's pretty much an entire win. We should always be going for the healers. If the healers die, we can move in a lot easier. And my last piece of advice when it comes to Reinhardt's ultimate is to not be too greedy. If you can get 2 to 3 characters or even one really important character on the enemy team to get caught in your ultimate ability, then it's going to be worth it. Okay, so now let's touch on a damage character and a healer that I think work really well with Reinhardt. For a healer, I'd say Brigitte. Even in the Overwatch lore, she was literally meant to be played with Reinhardt, so I'd say go and try that out, because with Reinhardt being able to move into the enemy territory and just smack people around, it gives Brigitte a good chance to do the same thing. And for damage, I'd say that Reaper works really well with Reinhardt. They have a similar playstyle, plus Reaper heals himself from hitting his enemies, so if you can dive in with Reinhardt and Brigitte, you're gonna have one hell of a time. Obviously there's a lot more characters that you can sync up with Reinhardt, but those are just the 2 off the top of my head that I think work really well, and it also depends on the enemy team composition too if you want to get into the nitty gritty. Okay guys, so that pretty much covers Reinhardt. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. We're going to be doing a lot more hero guides here on the channel, and next up is going to be Baptiste. But alright everyone, thank you guys so much. I'll catch you on the next one. Flash out.
Hold the shield up.